SureTake has some really cool features for studios. Not only is it giving a studio control over their client relationships because it only records, it doesn't promote any additional features to the clients. They have a branded experience, and the studio gets notified when they're done a recording. So the whole thing is very streamlined and easy for everybody. You also have a really cool feature with webhooks for automations. When a client finishes a recording, it can fire one of these off and notify an automation platform or whatever you might do with it and take action from there all automatically. Okay, so that could be a platform like Zapier, Make, N8N, or anything else. You can use this kind of data to do things on your studio's backend and make life very easy for everyone. One of those things that you can do is have recordings automatically show up in Descript and do some additional things to those recordings before you ever lay your hands on it to do your editing. That's very cool because Descript is a great tool. A lot of studios are using it, but it's not really made for this type of functionality that SureTake adds, where you can have all your different clients recording and everything ends up in Descript. This way, you get all the benefits of editing in Descript and your clients get the convenience of using SureTake to record. And like I said, the whole process is super simple. At this point in time, while recording this video, the Descript API projects that are being created here through this automation, they can only go into your personal folder in Descript right now, as opposed to general, but we're hoping that in the future they do change that, or at least give you the option to have it go to the general folder, which would typically be a lot more ideal for studios. It's also worth noting that this type of stuff does use Descript's Underlord feature, which is based on AI. It does use credits from your Descript account, but once you see how much time this is going to save you, it's going to be totally worth the cost. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come into your Manage Clients area on SureTake for studios. This feature is only available to studios and not on individual accounts. Come to the webhooks area, and you're going to want to set up a new webhook here. So you would give it a label and paste the webhook URL in this box. Switch on if you want to include transcriptions or not in these webhooks. And when you add it, you can actually do a test fire to put some test data into your automation platform or whatever you're building to see if it works and how it works. So I've already got one set up, but I'm just going to hop over to Zapier. That's the platform of my choice. And so I've got my very first step here is a webhooks by Zapier, a catch hook. And I put the URL right here from Zapier into a new webhook over here. So that's how you make that first connection so that when a client is done recording and they hit stop, it will fire and notify this webhook in Zapier that the recording is ready. Now, a little note on that as well is that there is a bit of a delay there because we want to accommodate for uploads and if the client makes any changes to the notes and things like that. So it isn't instant, but it's relatively quick. So now we've got the webhook set up in SureTake. We've got it created here in Zapier. We need to do a next step. What do we want to happen once the webhook is triggered from SureTake? Well, in this case, I've got a Descript import media step. Now, this goes through the Descript API, as I mentioned, which you need access to. And it's pretty straightforward. I personally like to name the project based on the show name in SureTake and then the session name, so like the episode title. So that right here is what I've set up for how the project will be titled in Descript. From there, we want to import the media URLs. SureTake makes this really easy in the webhook. There's a section that will import perfectly into Descript, and it's going to be that one that's called media URLs. So that, first of all, creates a project and imports the media to it. Now, there's more that you would likely want to do, and that's what we do with the next step, edit project with AI. So for the project setting, you would select use existing project because we're going to be using that project created in step 2. So when you're setting up your automation, like here in Zapier, I'm using the project ID that was outputted from step 2. Okay, so it's going to use that same project that we just created, put the media files into, and now I've got a little AI prompt here that tells Descript what I want it to do. And in this case, I'm asking it to create a sequence of all the media files so that they're stacked and begin at the same time. If there's only one media file, then it's fine to still proceed. Add that sequence to the main composition and begin transcription. And my personal preference, add studio sound at 55% and an audio compressor set at default to the main track. Before we go and actually look at this in action, a couple of notes. You can make this really complex and useful if you set up something like an Airtable with all of your clients, like a database, and you can put custom scripts in there for their procedure in Descript. For example, you could name the podcast and say, add the intro and outro from this podcast name to this. So every time this automation runs, it checks for the podcast name in your Airtable, checks for the custom prompt, and then follows those instructions in Descript. You can even have just a simple on-off if you don't want to do this for every client. You can get really creative here. If you have invoicing software, then this could actually trigger an automatic invoice line or ClickUp or Monday or any kind of task management productivity platform. You could create workflows in there. So once someone makes a new recording, it just shows up in your platform, assigned out, ready to go for your team. For the case here in this demo, I've just created a simple email step at the very last point here. So not only is it creating that Descript project for us, but it's pinging us a quick email and saying, hey, there's a new project ready in Descript from this client, and you can go ahead and edit it now. This totally revolutionized how I actually work with my clients because it's so much easier for them now. They don't have to download files and then send me an email or send links. They just literally record. I get notified. When I go into Descript, I don't have to waste all my time navigating to their layout pack and putting in the intro. It's just already there. Then I'm using my time more efficiently to do what I do best, go through and do the editing, adjust the coloring, anything that is actually important for a human to do, but it's saving me that time of the actual setup of the project. Now I want to actually show you it in action so you can see that it works. We're going to hop over to a session here. I'll call this Descript demo. Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to join this room here. And here we go. So we'd be recording an episode right now, or more accurately, your client would be recording right now. We can add markers here to our notes. You can fetch that through the automation. You can't do anything really with it in Descript, although I suppose you could. Now that I'm thinking about it with this video, you could literally have the clients write notes in a way that would be readable by Descript and literally tell it to highlight these edits or, whatever you can do within the confines of the Descript API and that AI automation. You could have it act on these markers. Wow, I just thought of that. That's really cool. That's another cool thing that this could do. So let's assume that this episode is done. We're gonna hit stop, wait for it to upload. And as I said, there's gonna be a bit of a time delay between when your client hits stop and it actually appears in Descript because of the delay with the webhook firing, then the time for Descript to import the files and do what it needs to do. So with the magic of video, let's skip all of that real life time and go check out our project in Descript right now. So here we go, literally just pop into Descript and the entire recording has made itself into a project. It's transcribed, it's got the settings that I want. And as I mentioned, you could take this even further. You could have the intro and outro added on for the client, automatic multicam, whatever Descript's Underlord can do, you could do through an automation. And SureTake makes that really cool for your studio to help make the process easier for your clients, help you make things more streamlined as well, and even more importantly, help you retain clients because they're not getting bombarded with suggestions to do all their own work. They get your quality work and a simple branded recording platform when you have a SureTake Studio account. So have fun with this. Let me know what kind of automations you're setting up with SureTake's webhooks and automations functions, how you're making it work with Descript. And I really would love to hear how you're making your life easier.